Thanks. I thought I'd start with something fun. I saw you made a sponsorship pitch to Tom Brady about a month ago on the Pace Lap. And, have you heard from him since then?
I wish. I have not heard from him, unfortunately, but got some. People seem to love that. Think it was fun and comical, and the video actually that I posted got picked up by Nesson, the New England Sports Network, which is huge up from where I'm from in Boston. So it got a lot of traction and definitely created a little buzz, which was perfect and a lot of fun. But unfortunately, no word from Tom Brady himself yet. But you never know.
Yeah. What's the craziest sponsor pitch you've ever done?
Well, I like to try to stand out from the crowd and differentiate myself a little bit when I'm trying to romance sponsors, and I've spent a lot of time writing emails to different companies and to CMOs and CEOs and trying to sell myself and sell the sport and get them interested in coming on board with me for sponsorship. But a lot of people send emails. That's an easy way and can be very effective, but it's not uncommon. So I have a couple times with some companies in the past. Just a handful of times that I thought were really good matches that I felt like really, really would be a great partner for me, for the sport, and could truly benefit from a sponsorship. And to stand out, I've actually mailed them in the mail a big canvas for their wall of a picture that I've edited of my race car. To try to grab their attention. And on the back of that canvas, it says, this is a gift from me to you, and if you wouldn't mind, just give my email from this and this date a quick read. And so as I mail it, I'll send a supplementary email about myself and hoping to get them as a sponsor. And I've gotten great feedback from that. People love that. It definitely stands out. So I'm all about trying to come up with some creative ideas like that. I have not had too many different ideas like that in the past, but anytime I come up with something like that, I'll definitely give it a shot because our sport's driven by sponsorship. So whatever you can do to try to put your name at the top of a company's list to get involved in the sport is what you got to do.
That makes sense. That's definitely different. So moving on to racing, you led some laps in the Daytona 500, which was a first for college racing in the Cup Series. How has it been working with the team this far in 2021?
It's been excellent. My transition over to college was really, really good and easy. Having been at RCR the last 2 years, of course, they work very closely with college in the Xfinity Series and now in the Cup Series for their select starts too. And they're located right on the RCR campus and are in a lot of the same meetings together. So I had gotten to know all of the guys at college racing pretty well over the past couple seasons. And so going over there, even though it was technically a new team for me, it felt like I was working with virtually all the same people that I had been all along. So it's been awesome over there. They've got a really, really excellent family environment. And the most important thing in this sport as a race team is that you know how to motivate your people and have everybody pulling in the same direction, and everybody's goal is solely to go out, win races, do as well as they can, and that's what they've created over there. So it's a great environment. I have a lot of fun there. They definitely put an emphasis on fun and enjoying your work at the racetrack, and I know everybody over there absolutely loves that. So it's been good, and they have some pretty steep aspirations in the sport, and Matt Collig and Chris Rice certainly know how to accomplish that. Just as far as they've come as an independent Xfinity team in just a few years, they definitely have shown that they're willing to do what it takes to be competitive, and now they're starting to dabble in the Cup Series, and I have no doubt that in a matter of a few years they're going to be some real contenders in the series.
I see. Yeah, their social media is definitely fun. They're always coming up with ideas on there.
Yeah, they do a really good job with the marketing too, and I think that's going to be a part of the success that they're going to be able to have in the coming years, because you need all those pieces to the puzzle.
Definitely. I see. So I saw you were getting ready for the Talladega Cup race later this month. Do you guys know for sure you'll be in the field with no qualifying? And what is it like to have that completely out of your control?
Well, I mean, that definitely has been a point of stress from the start of the season for us, is that we have to be able to stay in that top four in the open owner points to make sure that we can compete in the races that we plan to compete in this year. But we don't know that we're locked into Talladega, but Chris Rice and I are keeping an eye on what the owner points are doing week to week, and how things are shuffling. And Colleague Racing has been committed to running a certain schedule in the Cup Series. So if they ever need to add a race here or there, just to make sure they can bump themselves back up in the points just a little bit, they're willing to do that. So between now and Talladega, looking at it, I think we're going to be okay. We're not too worried about it. But if anything does change with that, we may have to react a little bit quickly, just to ensure that we stay in that top few in points there. But hopefully we'll have a good day in Talladega, see if we can survive the race, and if we do that, then we'll get some good points, and hopefully that'll keep us safe for another stretch of races.
I see. Yeah. So the what's the next stretch of races that are on the Colleague Racing schedule? Do you know, or on your schedule?
Well, we're still working on trying to add races and trying to pinpoint races. One thing we do know is our team owner Matt Collig really loves super speedways, and he loves road courses. So I do think that our number 16 Cup car, the schedule is going to be centered largely around those types of tracks. I think AJ is going to do the lion's share of the road courses, and I think you'll see me at all of the super speedways. But we still are looking to nail down another one or two races in between there as well. On some regular oval tracks. So we don't know 100% where those might be, but that's a work in progress still with the race team, working with them, with RCR and our sponsors, trying to pick which schedule is going to make the most sense for everybody. But you'll definitely see the number 16 car on track in the Cup Series at least a handful more times this year between AJ and myself.
I see. That makes sense. Thanks. What are your goals for the rest of the season with Colleague Racing?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, my goal in the Daytona 500 was to make it to the finish of the race, and I knew that if we could do that, we were going to have a great finish, and we had put ourselves in a perfect position to be able to do that, and then unfortunately just got caught up at the wrong time with something. Very minorly, we really didn't have hardly any damage on our car at all. We pretty much made it through unscathed, other than just scuffing the wall a little bit on the way by an incident. But unfortunately, that ended up cutting our right rear tire down, and the tire actually wrapped around the brake line and ripped it in the right rear, and that's why we ended up with a small fire in our right rear tire. And no brakes. So that did end our day, unfortunately, which I was very disappointed about. But I think Talladega, similarly to Daytona, I'm going to have the same goal, which is make it to the end of the race. It's 500 miles, which the Daytona 500 was the first race I ever have done. That's 500 miles, and I unfortunately didn't make it to the end. So Talladega, if I can make it to the end, will be the first time I've completed a 500-mile race. My goal is to be there at the end, and just like Daytona, Talladega can be a wild race. We all know that. So it's easier said than done to make it to the end. But just like Daytona, if we are there at the end, I feel really good that we're going to get a great finishing position, a great day for Colleague, great points day, and that's really what's important. But I thought our car had a lot of speed at Daytona. I felt great about it, and I'm sure that we'll be just as good, if not better, the second time around at Talladega. So I feel like if we're there at the end, hey, we've got as good a shot to win the race as anybody that's still out there, and I certainly will be pushing to try to do that. Wouldn't that change a lot for me and the team to go out there and get a win? So that's definitely what Matt Colleague and the whole Colleague team is focused on. They want trophies. We want trophies. I want trophies. So we're going to be pushing hard to try to do that, but got to make it to the end first. That's goal one.
Yeah, I definitely gotta make it to the end first, huh? And especially on those tracks.
Yeah.
How do you feel about running part-time in NASCAR as opposed to full-time, and how is it different in terms of the way you prepare?
Well, I mean, it's very different. In years past, the last couple of years, I've been part-time, which is a good thing. It can be a good thing when it comes to race preparation. It gives you a little extra time to focus on each individual event and work on that for the simulator and study it, watch the video. But, of course, running super speedways this year is a little bit different. The simulator aspect of our sport and our preparation doesn't really apply to the restrictor plate tracks. So it's really more going to be about watching video and preparing that way. But just running part-time in general is a far different approach to the sport. And I had always heard, it's hard to run part-time. But I didn't really appreciate how hard it was, because I looked at it as, racing's it's like riding a bike. You don't forget how to do it. You should be able to hop in and do it like normal any weekend, right? You've been doing it your whole life, and that part is true. But the more difficult parts are the parts that you can't practice and that you only get good at and stay sharp at by doing them, like restarts, like pit road, like giving feedback to the crew chief and getting that chemistry and communication with the crew chief on a regular basis. Those are huge advantages to drivers that run full time and are just used to being in the seat and going through those reps every single weekend. The other part of it is the mental aspect is very difficult as a part-time driver, because a driver performs at their best when they're the most confident, when they're able to push the hardest. That's when you're going to perform the best. And as a part-time driver, you're constantly balancing pushing hard, but knowing you only have a limited number of opportunities in the car this year, so you want to push, but not push over that limit. Because as soon as you end up with 1 or 2 races with issues that season, if you're running 33 races, you're going to have 1 or 2 races with issues. That's okay. You're going to have 31 other races that you can go and get the finish you deserve at. As soon as you're running a schedule that's 4 or 5 races in a year, well, all of a sudden, if you have 2 races with incidents along the way, well, that's half your season. So the mental aspect of being able to balance how hard to push and how important this specific race is for you versus taking what the car will give you. I experienced this my first year with RCR, just running 5 races with them in Xfinity. We were fast. The cars were good. It was the best team I'd ever been on in Xfinity, speed-wise and performance-wise. So I really wanted to go out and make an impact, get top 5s, get top 3s, contend for wins. And instead, I honestly made a lot of mistakes trying to finish up there. And you'll see with a lot of drivers that compete part-time for the first time in their career, that happens. It's extremely common. There's almost no way around that. You kind of have to learn how to mentally approach a part-time season. In the next year with them, I ran another 5 in Xfinity, and I was able to learn, if you've got an 8th place or 9th place car today, finish 7th or 8th with it, but don't make a mistake trying to finish 4th with a 9th place car, because that's when you're going to get yourself in trouble. So it's a totally different mental game and approach, and frankly, in my opinion, a little more difficult of one. It's way tougher to go into a season part-time and be able to find success with it than full-time. But I've unfortunately or fortunately gotten acclimated to that over the past few seasons, but always looking for trying to be a full-time competitor in the future. And right now, 2022 is certainly my ultimate goal, to be full-time. So hopefully I'll be able to do that and be able to readjust to that type of schedule, because I know myself as a competitor and my strengths and weaknesses, and I think that being able to run a full season and compete for a points championship, staying focused for that many weekends in a row and pushing to my hardest, that is one of my strengths, and I think that I'll really be able to show that with a full-time ride.
I see. So expanding on that last point about 2022, what series would you hope to be running in full time if you could?
Well, honestly, I right from the beginning of my career have always just followed whatever opportunities are available and whatever makes the most sense for my career at the time. A lot of people wondered why I only did 1 full-time year in the truck series, and the simple answer to that was I didn't have an opportunity to do a second in the truck series, but I did, however, have an opportunity with JGL Racing in 2018 to move up to the Xfinity series. So I went for it. It was a little early. I would have loved to spend more time in trucks, but that was what was available. And so I've kind of treated every season and off season that same way, with whatever is best for my career is what I'm going to go with. And right now I think I'm in a really good place at Colleague Racing. As I mentioned, they are looking to do big things, and that's always the type of place you want to be at. So I have no idea what 2022 holds, but I know that my personal goal is to compete full-time in something, and certainly right now would love to do that with Colleague Racing. I don't think there's a better place out there to do it with at the moment. So kind of whatever is available, whatever I can do is what I'm going to chase. And just like over the past year, you've seen me fill in for multiple drivers due to COVID or illness or conflict. They're not able to compete in the race. I'll drive anything. I'll drive a truck. I'll drive an Xfinity car, Cup car, you name it. And I'd love to hop in and do my best in it and hopefully be able to prove what I can do one more race at a time. So whatever I can try to prove myself in next year, that's what you'll see me in.
Awesome. That's definitely that's a really good way to think about it. And you mentioned about sponsors earlier. What has it been like finding sponsorship during the COVID-19 pandemic? And do you feel that the racing leagues have been hit as hard as some of the other sports?
I think that in many ways we've been hit a little bit harder because in other sports, endorsements and sponsorships are just, icing on the cake. It's extra income for the athletes, but they don't need sponsors to go out there and play football or play baseball. But for us, sponsors are how we get to the racetrack. We don't have any choice but to have them, and a lot of companies have been hit by the pandemic hard financially and production-wise, marketing, and it's definitely changed the world as we know it currently. So I do think it's made things more difficult, and the toughest part for us with it is we just have so many unknowns when we're talking to sponsors. If they want a specific event and they want to know for sure, we're going to say Sonoma, California in a couple weeks. They just announced that is going to be a confirmed race. But, for the past few months, we didn't know. It's all specific governor related for the individual states. So, we can't promise them that we will definitely be at track X on this date. We know we're supposed to be. We know the whole industry is planning to be. But really, if anything, this pandemic has taught us we don't know anything for sure yet. And the same goes for the fan experience, and a lot of sponsors want to be able to activate with at-track marketing, at-track sampling or sales. They want to have a presence at the event, and that for a long time has been one of the biggest aspects to sponsorship in NASCAR is having that access. And we can't guarantee them week to week how many fans there'll be. Some tracks there's 30,000 fans, other tracks there's just a few thousand fans, and last year there were a lot of tracks that had no fans. So it's definitely tough having conversations with sponsors for the dollar amounts that are involved in NASCAR and not being able to guarantee them answers to certain questions. That's the toughest part. But luckily the vaccines are rolling out widely now, and looks like governors are starting to ease up on some of the restrictions because people are getting safer with vaccines. So that's a really great trend to see across the country and the world as a whole. So hopefully, knock on wood, things will keep progressing in this positive direction where everyone's getting a little bit safer each day, so that by the end of this season, and hopefully certainly by the start of next season, I'd love to see everything back to normal like the old days. And I feel like that is something that's possible. At least I'm certainly holding out hope for that. So if that's the case, that will definitely help us a lot with sponsorship, I think, and just being able to guarantee more things to these companies we talk to, and hopefully be able to get even more on board.
Yeah. And, thank you for that. That was pretty much all I had for you, because you touched on my last few topics I had. Thank you so much for being available for the interview, and appreciate all your candidness, and good luck with the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the interview.
Thank you. Hope you have a good one.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Bye.